today we did defense against single legs again. Professor Bridges is saying that there's two, well, she's classifying the two defenses as sprawling versus kind of pinching or squishing your opponent. So what we did on Monday was sprawling, where you get your weight on top of your opponent's neck, forcing them down. So we get the whizzer on one side and you're pushing away. So the whole point is to force your opponent down, get your weight on top of him until he goes down on his knees, and then you want to, so the single leg, he has a grip on your leg. So then you sprawl, so you push against his back and down, and you push your legs away so that the tops of your feet are against the ground and sliding out. So you're sort of tripoding. It's like you're spreading a tripod out on the ground where your legs are two of the tripod legs and your upper body is the third leg. So what this does is it breaks his grip on your leg. And then the other way is the, I don't know, there wasn't really a name, like a squeezing or coming together way. So once they have you in the single leg, you bring one arm inside, grabbing the chest, and the other one bends down more and grabs the hamstring on the other side, and then you lean forward so that your trapped leg touches the ground, and then you go into a knee cut pass, knee cut to scarf hold to side control. So what you're doing this time, instead of breaking the grip he has on your leg, you're going inside of the grip. So it's two things working in opposition. One thing I had trouble with is on the sprawl version. So once you get your weight on top of them, once you get the whizzer and you start pushing, then you go from your toes to having the weight on the top of the foot. So you flip your foot over, so like your shoelaces are now on the ground, and then you slide. So that's just like a really uncomfortable position for me. Well, first because I think I mentioned before, I don't really like hurting the opponent or like putting them in uncomfortable positions. So like me hanging off their neck isn't like natural for me to do. So when you do that move, when you flip your feet so that your shoelace is on the ground, you're hanging off of his neck, and just like you're like dead weight. So in that situation, I'm always kind of like trying to hold myself up, which is the complete opposite. Like, you should be using all the natural weight and force to go down. If you control it in any way, you're lessening the pressure. So that's one way it's weird for me. And then the other way is just like, how do you transition? Are you like doing a little hop to go from the bottom of your feet to the top of their feet? Are you like rolling over somehow? I haven't figured that out. Then another thing I noticed is that in the beginner class, when someone's like the same weight or size as me in the beginner class, I can pretty much handle them now, or at least it's like pretty evenly matched. So when I am defensive in the beginner class, it's because someone is like a lot heavier than me or a lot stronger than me, in which case I'm usually in half guard or side control or mount, and then I funnel back to half guard. So and that's the case where I want to figure out all the half guard sweeps and stuff like that. But in the advanced class, I'm like the worst person there, so I'm always on the defensive. but I'm not in half guard that much. I never realized this before. I'm in half guard sometimes, but most of the time I'm in turtle. Not exactly sure why. I think, you know what? It's because even if we get to half guard, they pass it so easily that they go to side control and then I turtle up. Versus when I'm in the beginning class, if they give me the side control, I can get half guard again. I think it's because their side control is so much tighter, and I'm kind of forced to turtle. Like, I guess, I don't know, maybe I'm good at going to turtle because all I need is like a little gap and then I can flip my hips, get my butt high and turtle up. So unfortunately I'm not that good at getting out of turtle. So I'm just sort of delaying the inevitable right now. So Jamie actually had me in turtle, and then he had like my arm across. And Jamie's first of all, he's a lot better than me. Second of all, he's a lot bigger than me. So he goes into our roles, I think, just wanting to practice what he is in control of the situation the whole time. So sometimes he just gives me like advice while we're rolling. So he said, like, what is stopping me from we were stuck in this position for a while. I was in turtle, he was behind me, and then he had a cross grip on my arm. So his right arm was holding my left arm under my body, and because it was pretty tight, I couldn't go forward, I couldn't go backwards, I couldn't roll over. If I tried to, I would have to exert maximum effort, and then if it didn't work, then I would be completely open, and I didn't know actually of any techniques. So if I would have to do something that's just completely instinctual, and so therefore it probably wouldn't work because I have no idea what I'm doing in that situation. And second of all, I'd be exerting a lot and then exposing. So I was just kind of staying in that position and kind of move around, see if he opened up any openings or anything like that. So after it felt like forever, but probably after 10 seconds of that, he asked me what was stopping me from doing anything. And then I said, it's because you're so fucking heavy. But then I was like, it's because your arm's holding me. And so he was like, yeah, so figure out what's constraining, attack the constraint. So he had my left arm, so I took my right arm and broke his grip on my left arm, and then I could try to recover. Then I'm in a more familiar position where I know what I'm supposed to do. I didn't feel helpless. So that was a really good way to think about it is what are the constraints and how do I attack the constraints versus what is a better position to get into. I think that's what my thinking is usually. It's I'm in turtle. How do I get back to half guard or full guard? Right? So then I'm I need to get my legs. I need to flip my legs over and shoot my legs through and get half guard, or Granby and get the full guard, rather than what is the specific. It's maybe it's strategic versus tactical. So I need to think tactically and think strategic, or both obviously, but right now I'm thinking strategically and then tactically. So I'm thinking, I need to get to full guard. How do I get to full guard? Versus what are my constraints right now? How do I remove those constraints? So tactically first, and then once I'm in a neutral position, what do I do? So I was kind of thinking about this actually. So when I set up the database a while ago, I wanted to say in each position, what are like the fundamental things you need to do? Like what are the frames you need to have? And then what are the options from there? So it's like what do you need to be in a, if you're in a defensive position, what do you need to do to be neutral? And then what are your options? And then if you're in an offensive position, what do you need to do to maintain position? And then what are your options? So like to maintain position, what do you need to do to keep your weight on them, deny their frame, what frames are they going to try to do to you, and how do you deny them? And then what techniques can you do from there? Yeah. So then, actually, another thing I wanted to talk about was size. So obviously, size matters a lot because if you're heavier and stronger, you can just sort of dominate. But why is that? And I think what size does is it gives you a larger margin for error in pretty much every aspect. So if you are sweeping someone, your technique doesn't need to be as good. If you're getting swept by someone, their technique has to be better. If you're choking someone, if you're smaller and you're choking someone, then I need to hit it correctly, because if I don't, I'm gonna be. So if you do a choke correctly, it should work. If you don't do it correctly, you're gonna have to apply more pressure and exert more, and that will generally take you out of position. So then, if the additional pressure works, that's fine. But if it doesn't work, you're tired, you're out of position. So all your opponent has to do is like outlast that pressure, and then they can reverse you pretty easily. So, but if you're bigger, you can use your body weight to sort of pin your opponent down, or to maintain position while you like take your time to do the choke. Right? So another thing is if you're doing a choke and you're off, maybe you have like 70% of it on, you can't just like slide it up to the right position necessarily. You might have to like relax it to like 20% and then readjust and put it on. And then that readjustment period is a window for them to get out of it. And if you're bigger and you have a lot of weight on the person, then it's harder for them to get out. You can use that pressure and weight to allow yourself to adjust, while if you're smaller, you don't have that. So the size thing and the strength thing, I think it's just a matter of more margin for error. So that's why if you're smaller, I think your learning curve is going to be much slower, but because you're forced to do everything precisely, once you get it, then because you don't have a margin for error, you have to be more fine-tuned. So you won't get as many false positives. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. You won't get as many false positives when you are at a disadvantage, whether that be in size or weight or strength or speed. If you are at a disadvantage, you won't have. Shoot, what did I just say? If you're at a disadvantage, you won't. I'll rewind it. Yeah, so that's a good way to look at it.